Talk Show. How nice is that? Welcome into the program. Phone number is live. Thanks for being here with us on Facebook and YouTube at 631-438-1768. If you want to get in touch with the show, just hit that number up, 631-438-1768. We got the chats rolling on YouTube and Facebook Live, on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Hockey Talk Show. And we got a lot of cool stuff to get into here on the Hockey Talk Show for this Monday, a Cyber Monday at that. Anything you want to talk about, the number is good for you there, 631-438-1768. That's going to happen from time to time. When you're a radio DJ and you're hosting a Hockey Talk Show, you're going to cross the phone numbers. So there's going to be times where I give out the radio station phone number and times when I give out the actual phone number. We're going to talk about hockey disappointments and surprises on the show today. And of course, got some special savings for you down in the description of this video if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Some special savings. It is Cyber Monday at the time of our taping here, and we've worked out a deal with the NHL shop to get you some special savings. You need a code. There's a code word involved. Very complex deal. Details on all of that, of course, in the description. And if you're listening on podcasts, thanks again. Rate and review, especially on iTunes. Keep that thing rolling, and you can get all this information just by going to hockeytalkshow.com. Probably the most unprepared I've ever been for a show. Super putting it together at the last second here. I've had some thoughts throughout the course of the day, but haven't really been able to nail it all down. So we're just going to roll with it. And again, if you want to inject anything, 631-438-1768. I do know that I want to talk about the surprises and the disappointments of this season so far, because I feel like we've had a whole bunch. And I don't know exactly what it is about this season. I do think this is a special season for several reasons. Vegas Golden Knights, we have expansion. We haven't had that in a really long time. The last time we've had to look at a whole new franchise, essentially, even though they don't really count them technically as franchises, were when Atlanta moved up to Winnipeg. And Atlanta was part of the last great expansion, and to have that not work out was a big disappointment for the NHL. But nonetheless, that was the last time we sort of had to look at a different city or new sweaters. So Vegas coming into the league, kind of a big deal. The NHL celebrating its 100th anniversary. Kind of a big deal. They've been doing a lot more events this season. I've noticed that they're so much more active on social. It just feels like there's a little bit more of a buzz for the National Hockey League season this year. So I feel like we're really into a special sort of a year here for both of those reasons, and them not being the only one. And then we're seeing some hardcore statistics on why it's different this year. Scoring is obviously up. Scoring per game is obviously up. I've never do I remember 7 goal games, 8 goal game. And I'm not talking about 7 goals total. We've seen 4-3 games. I'm talking about 8-3, 7-2, 6-1, 6-0. We're seeing a lot of these situations take place in the league this year, so it's kind of cool. So I've compiled a list of some of my disappointments and some of my surprises, and I want to get your thoughts on this. Drop it in the comments section on Facebook and YouTube. Who's been your surprise? Who's been your disappointment, whether that's on your favorite team or not? And just taking a step back and looking at the league, what's been the surprise team for you? What's been the disappointing team for you? Let's start with the positive, because I like to be positive, and let's head on over to the New Jersey Devils. Surprise, surprise. Surprise isn't even the word for these guys. Picked to be honestly dead last in the East. They are sitting up number 1 on the top of the heap. A number 1, old Blue Eyes would say, with 32 points, 14 wins, 5 losses. Truly extraordinary work for the New Jersey Devils. Now, again, not top on the East altogether. That would go to Tampa Bay. But they are just 2 points behind the Tampa Bay Lightning, having both played 23 games apiece. Now, if you're a Devils fan, you are smitten beyond belief. if you're a fan of hockey or a fan of the other 30 teams, I got that one this time. I didn't say 29. I remembered Vegas is here this year. You're downright shocked. This is shocking. It's shocking on several levels. Not only what Jersey is doing, but who is doing it for the New Jersey Devils, i.e. Gibbons, some of their younger guys, Bratt, all these kids. I mean, it's just downright amazing. It's a miracle. The other big surprise we want to talk about is the Vegas Golden Knights. One of the reasons why we feel like this year is special for the National Hockey League. A lot of people thought, not going to be it. Expansion franchise, no matter what, it's going to take a while to build, right? Everybody says that. It's going to take it's going to take a Minnesota Wild to build. We got to build. We're going to rebuild. We're building on the fly. We're building this, we're building that, we're rebuilding here, we're rebuilding it. Oh yeah, maybe sometimes it just takes the right combination of guys. Maybe that's it. Maybe it takes a long time to get to that right combination of guys, but maybe it just takes the right combination of guys. Look at the National Football League. They rebuild every offseason. It's the only league that cuts it all down and starts all over again. It's the easier league where you can go from dead last to we might win a Super Bowl this year. I mean, that kind of fluctuation doesn't happen in any other sports league. It's very slow in baseball. It's really slow in basketball. It's pretty slow in the National Hockey League. Just ask Islander fans, right? Just ask Pittsburgh Penguins fans. Remember how long Pittsburgh stunk before Sid came along? That was a long time. That was a lot of stinkage. There was a lot of stinkage over there in Pittsburgh, but they made it happen. Chicago was the same thing. Chicago stunk it up for many years. There were relocation rumors around Chicago. Not that I ever believed it for a second, but it came up that they were so terrible. They had bad attendance. Before Rocky really took over that franchise, that's kind of how it was over there. So you look at the Vegas Golden Knights, and again, I've talked about this a lot, but the hockey pundits refuse to accept it. I mean, even up until a couple of days ago, they were still talking about George McPhee moving out most of those players in the trade deadline. And that's not going to happen. The Vegas Golden Knights are here to stay. Now, my question to you also is, what's the bigger surprise? So again, I want to see your surprise and disappointments in the comments anytime. This is weird because we do the show live. So we got people watching live and they can comment along right now and I can react. And then we got people commenting, when they're watching the replays, whenever they feel like on demand, and they can comment then. And I will comment back via typing. Who's the biggest disappointment and surprise on your favorite team player wise? Who's the biggest disappointment and surprise as far as teams go? And who's the biggest surprise? You can answer any one of these. You don't have to answer any of them. Who's the biggest surprise? Vegas or the Devils? Who's the bigger surprise? The New Jersey Devils or the Vegas Golden Knights? Doing some Gatorade today because I'm a smidge under the weather. For me, I got to say it's the New Jersey Devils. That's the bigger surprise for me. The Vegas Golden Knights didn't surprise me. Again, I like to toot my own horn when I'm right. I'll own up to when I'm wrong, but I don't like doing it, but I'll do it. But I do like to toot my horn when I'm right. The Vegas Golden Knights, when they put this team together, I said, this is a good team. This is a good hockey team. Did I think they were going to be top of their division good? No. But I thought that they were going to be competing for a playoff spot. I really did. I didn't pick them to be last, which most people did. I picked them to make some noise. Because I just have to look at the team. Jonathan Marchessault is a 30-goal scorer. Now, he did it once, so you got to see if he's the real deal, but the potential is there. Like, Marchessault scoring 30 last year with the Panthers was the surprise. If he does it again this year, you can't really be surprised. James Neal is a potential 40-goal scorer. When you have a team with a 30 and 40-goal scorer, and David Perron, who's got a ton of talent, and just kind of floated through the league and fell apart, I guess. When you have a world-class goaltender like Marc-Andre Fleury, when you have a pretty damn solid defense core, I like Derek Engelland because he's back in his home. I love the pickup of Nate Schmidt. We see how much that's really worked out for them. Colin Miller is solid. Again, these guys aren't Drew Doughty. They're not, Duncan Keith, but they're great, solid, blue-collar defensemen. When you see these guys, it's not a surprise to me that this team is doing well. Gerard Gallant is a hell of a coach. Hell of a coach. Should have never been let go from Florida. One of the biggest mistakes. I'm going to talk about disappointment. We can get into Florida in a bit. But you got a great general manager. You got a phenomenal coach. You got 30 players that are pissed that their team gave up on them, whether they wanted to or not. We certainly know Marchessault was really super upset. Riley Smith is a great acquisition. Shipachyov was a great signing until he fell apart. You put a great goaltender in there. Offensive power, solid defenseman. I mean, just evaluate the team. It's a good team. Now, a lot of you are chiming in. I love it. Vegas is the bigger surprise. I'll take it. I'm not going to argue with you on that. It's your opinion. For me, it's the Devils because they have a world-class goaltender, which is true. They do have solid defense in Andy Green and, some of their other guys, which is true. They do have some offense. Taylor Hall is a great player. Nico Hischier is good. Brian Boyle is maybe one of my favorite players not wearing a sweater of the team that I love. I just love his hustle. Loved him for the first second I saw the guy. When he was with the Rangers, I loved him. Loved to hate him with the Rangers, but I still loved him. Loved him in Tampa. Couldn't believe Tampa traded him. Thought that was a big mistake for the Lightning. I was surprised that Toronto couldn't sign him and lock him down because I thought him and Martin would have been great together. But I just didn't see the same potential. And I got to back up my claims here because, you look at it and, of course, okay, Taylor Hall's doing it for him, 26 points in 23 games. But you look at who's really moving the needle for them and has been pushing that team for the longest time. Will Butcher, who nobody saw coming. Nico Hischier, okay, high pick. We knew he was going to be good, but we've seen a lot of high picks go back down to the minors. Brian Gibbons leading this team with 11 goals. Brian, the journeyman Gibbons. That's maybe the biggest surprise in the league right now, that he's able to do this at 29 years old. After years of just journeyman play. 41 games with Pittsburgh, scored 17 points. 25 games with Columbus a year later, scored 5 assists. And now he has 15 points in 23 games. I mean, he's about to best his career best in half the time, practically. It's amazing. To me, the New Jersey Devils, I just didn't see. They have a world-class goaltender in Corey Schneider, but let's be honest, Corey Schneider wasn't Corey Schneider last year, and you had to sit there and think, is he going to be the old Corey Schneider this year? Well, he's definitely showed up. 2.76 goals against, 9 wins, 4 losses in 17 games. Amazing. So as far as the disappointments go and the surprises go, surprises are Vegas, the Devils, and honestly, the Tampa Bay Lightning, because you look at those 3 teams right there, as good as the Tampa Bay Lightning are this year, the surprise is, where were they last June on the golf course? I mean, those are 3 teams that did not make the playoffs last year. The Devils were atrocious. Tampa just barely missed. And Vegas wasn't even in existence yet. So that one's kind of that's a quoter. That's a technicality on the Vegas part. But you have 3 teams that are at the top of their respective divisions right now that were not even in a playoff spot last season. That's awesome. And that's amazing. And it makes other teams scratch their head, i.e. Montreal, Florida, some of our disappointments. The St. Louis Blues. I am surprised that they are this good. I knew they were going to be good. I had them towards the top. But the surprise best move in the offseason, and again, this is a great time to evaluate. We're 23 games in. It's an 82-game season. American Thanksgiving has passed now. We can look back and see what we're dealing with here. Now all the hockey pundits are like, I guess Vegas is in it, when I've been saying that from the beginning. But you take a look at some of the offseason acquisitions that happen. You can make the claim for Sergachev down in Tampa, but I think the best move that was pulled off in the offseason was by the St. Louis Blues to get Braden Shen, excuse me. I don't know where I got Brady from. Braden Shen has looked awesome. Downright amazing. Despite the fact that, St. Louis had a whole slew of injuries to start this season. The play of Jaden Schwartz and Braden Shen, by the way, the Jaden and the Braden are doing amazing right now. 1-2 in points for St. Louis. Jaden has 13 goals, 19 assists, 32 points, 10 goals, 20 assists, 30 points for Braden Shen. But Braden Shen is killing penalties. He's quarterbacking the power play, not from the point, but I'm saying he's moving guys around. He's moving pucks around. He looks awesome. And in 24 games, he's on pace to be a 30-plus goal scorer this season. And I know that's around the high end of his spectrum. I want to see if he's ever reached 30. He hasn't. 26 in Philly, the 15-16 season. That's the highest he's ever gotten. So as far as surprises go, which seemed to me like a little bit of a weird, surprising move, but it solidified their center position. And we all know how important centermen are now in the league. You look at all the teams that are hurting for them. Montreal, the Rangers, the Islanders for years have struggled to get decent centermen in there. Who else off the top of my head? You got good centermen in San Jose. You got good centermen in Dallas. Well, centermen, it'll come to me. Maybe Winnipeg outside of Wheeler. It's iffy there. What's his name? Who just took the hit from Gudis. He's a good centerman, but the third line centerman, he's playing second. But anyway, the point is, centermen are hard to come by now. Kind of the way defensemen were coveted years ago. That's kind of the way centermen are coveted today. And Braden Shen, bringing him in for St. Louis, just genius. Just genius. Let's talk about home play. Home play, super important. The Islanders have not lost a home game in regulation in the 2017-2018 season. Have not lost a home game in regulation so far this season. I see your comments coming and appreciate it as always on Facebook and YouTube. Numbers live if you want to call in and rap 631-438-1768. The Islanders, who all the talk about them moving, can't find a home. The players hate Brooklyn. Nobody's going to sign in Brooklyn. We hate Brooklyn. Brooklyn sucks. Brooklyn this or that. You know what I have to say to you? In the words of the late great Biggie, do or die, Bed-Stuy, baby. That's where it's at right now. Brooklyn is home to the New York Islanders, and they're happy to be there. Have not dropped a game in regulation yet. Let's talk about the New York Rangers. Let's go over the river. The New York Rangers, by winning on Sunday against the Vancouver Canucks, have extended their home winning streak this season to the longest active one. The Rangers are 13-9-2. They match the Vegas Golden Knights for the longest active home winning streak this season, according to the Elias Sports Bureau. 8 in a row. Vegas has won at T-Mobile. The streak started October 15th. Rangers, whose Madison Square Garden streak started with a win against the Arizona Coyotes on October 26th, will look to make it 9 in a row when they play the Florida Panthers tomorrow night, Tuesday. And they have a good chance at doing that tomorrow night because the Florida Panthers suck. They kind of suck. So home play, very surprising because the Rangers traditionally not. I mean, I really don't remember. I feel like one season, maybe in the last 10, they had like a really good home record. But I don't really remember the New York Rangers being that outstanding at home versus on the road. And an unbeaten streak at 8 is pretty damn good. Now, the Islanders are not there yet, but again, they have not lost a game in regulation. That's the difference. They lost one in overtime. That's why they're not part of the streak. They have not lost a game in regulation at home. That's kind of amazing. That's kind of a surprise. You know, that's kind of a really big surprise to me. And the Vegas Golden Knights and the New York Rangers also surprising. And I want to again take a second, and I've already addressed this, but I want to just do it again quickly here as we're actually going to round third in a little bit and wrap the show a smidge early. Just a little too under the weather to do an hour tonight. Vegas is for real, and I'm really tired of the Twitter hate of all these people going, well, they got stacked all the easy games at home. They got all the home games. Dude, I mean, nobody can sit here and say the Vegas Golden Knights have it easy. I'm sorry. They had 7 home games in a row, which I thought was a smart scheduling on the part of the league. You're planting a seed in Vegas. You're building a brand. You're introducing a new sport. It's important to have presence there, especially early on. You don't want them playing one game and then going on the road and being forgotten for 7 games. But on top of that, I mean, Fleury out, Subban out, Oscar Danska. I mean, they were down to their 4th string goaltender. By the way, on the road on the East Coast, when that plane was really, rudderless. When they were just down to their 4th string goalie, calling up kids out of the damn Western Hockey League, 19-year-olds, right? Can't get into a bar, but he's backing up for the Vegas Golden Knights in New York. And they wound up coming out of that stretch winners. I mean, they've had a fair amount of adversity to face in this early season. They've earned every bit of their record. I don't care if they played Arizona twice, close to each other and at home. They've earned every bit of their record. But again, a pleasant surprise that they are up on the top of the Pacific Division. I mean, I did not have them pegged to be better than Los Angeles, San Jose, or Calgary. I will throw one more surprise in there, and that's the Vancouver Canucks. I will say this. Travis Green has got this group playing super well. They have got this group playing super well. Vancouver has inched their way into a wild card position. Let's take a look at the standings really quick here. I got a break from you guys looking at my face all the time. It's too much face. It's just too much face. But take a look at the standings here. Look at where Vancouver is. Look at how many teams are underneath them that were expected to make the playoffs. And again, this is a weird, we are in an odd territory. I think for the last 3 out of 4 years, 13 out of the 16 teams that were in a playoff spot by Thanksgiving were in a playoff spot at the end of the year. 13 out of the 16 teams. You got that? So 13 out of the 16 teams, the last 3 out of 4 years, the way this looked on Thanksgiving for Americans is the way this looked at the end of the season. That's pretty amazing that only 3 teams fell out in that time span, and it's consistently been that way 3 out of the last 4 years. Those are amazing statistics. So if this holds true, Vancouver's got a great shot at being in the mix when nobody thought they would, because again, rebuilds take 10 years, right? Just because the Maple Leafs took 10 years to rebuild doesn't mean that the whole league has to go by that formula. Sorry, Toronto fans, but it's true. You get up there and you hear some of these pundits talking and they act like, well, this is the way it is for the Maple Leafs, so it's got to be the way for everybody, and that's not right. Truth is, the Maple Leafs blew their rebuild midway through and then had to kind of start it all over again, which they had done consistently for the last 20 years or so. No, it's not 20. They had some success in between. But look at this list. Vancouver is over Chicago right now. Who pegged that whatsoever? Nobody. Vancouver's better than Dallas. Minnesota was pegged to win a Stanley Cup this year. Colorado's over Anaheim, which I'm shocked by. And the Edmonton Oilers are the second worst team in the West. How the hell did that happen? Which brings us to our biggest disappointment feature of the program. How the hell did the Edmonton Oilers wind up second from last? By far biggest disappointment. Ball peach in on that. Edmonton is a disappointment. Not only is Edmonton a disappointment, Edmonton is the biggest disappointment. Because Montreal is disappointing. Buffalo is disappointing. Buffalo is disappointing to Buffalo fans. I knew this team wasn't that good, but you can't really say that. But Buffalo's been a disappointment. And the Florida Panthers, to me, are a bigger disappointment. You had a Dale Talon built team. Ownership decided to push him aside. You had Gerard Gallant, who was a great coach, especially for young players. You fired him, and you just sent your team into disarray. I mean, if I was Roberto Luongo, I'd be pissed as all hell. I'd be super pissed if I was Roberto Luongo. Because here's a guy who chose to play in Florida despite where this team was for personal reasons. His wife is down there. He likes the area, whatever it was. You know, wife is from there, I think. Decided to go and move his career there. A first ballot Hall of Fame goaltender. And now all of a sudden you guys are cooking. And he's probably thinking to himself, hey, we got a little something going here. I might be able to capture that elusive championship with this team. And then push the general manager aside, eventually fire the coach. Analytics. And who is that? Tom Rowe, what was his name? He's already out. Huge mistake by ownership down there. Hire good hockey people and leave them in. And now Florida's paying for it. They're 8-12. Bad start to the season. I don't see them recovering at all. Huge disappointment. Huge opportunity squandered. When you're inching up, when you're building, when your young guys are getting it. Marchessault's a 30-goal scorer. You know, Roberto Luongo is your goalie, playing great. All their other guys, Barkov, all this incredible, young, exciting talent. Trocheck, Huberdeau, you know, building and building and building. And then a goose egg. That sucks. Just ask the Toronto Maple Leafs, because that's what they did for the last 12, Baker's dozen years. They were like, oh my God, maybe this is it. They're finally putting it together, and fire Brian Burke. They could not figure it out. And that stinks. It's one thing to go to the finals and lose. At least you had the ride. At least you had the journey, the experience. It sucks to make it to the first round and then lose. That sucks. And then not being able to even gain back a playoff momentum whatsoever. That is super disappointing. I think Florida is much more disappointing than Buffalo. And I know a lot of people don't agree, but I didn't have Buffalo in the mix whatsoever. Buffalo, I hate as a team because I told you this. The Okposo deal sucks. Molson's not a great deal. You've got Kane, who's going to leave. The best thing, the most the Buffalo people have to look forward to outside of moving away from Buffalo is trading Evander Kane. That's the only thing they have to look forward to. And I'm sorry to say this, but I'm going to put it out there. And this, by the way, is a ill-informed, from a distance, stupid fan judgment. But I don't see Jack Eichel finishing his career with the Buffalo Sabres. I don't see it. He's frustrated. He's annoyed. Ownership has already made changes just to appease him. They gave him a big fat contract, and they're still sitting at the bottom of the league. That is a sure sign of watching a superstar leave one day. It'll be interesting to see what the Sabres can do with that $10 million a year contract, in 18-19 or 19-20. We got to see where that cap is, because it's going to be interesting. If that cap doesn't continue to grow, then he might be a Sabre for the rest of his life, because you're certainly not going to swap him out for Connor McDavid. There's not a lot of players making 10. You're not going to trade him for Patrick Kane. Not a lot of $10 million players out there that you could do a 1-for-1 swap. But trading Evander Kane is got to be the most noteworthy moment for the Buffalo Sabres. I mean, I don't know what else they have to look forward to. I really don't. The Winter Classic, maybe? Buying the Buffalo Sabres Winter Classic jersey, by the way, link in the description if you want to go ahead and purchase that. I left the Sabres and the Rangers. If you haven't seen the Rangers and the Sabres Winter Classic jerseys, links are in the description. We were talking about them before Black Friday, and then Black Friday came and we broke down the Rangers one, and then I just decided to leave it in there. We got some Cyber Monday deals for you in there too. You get some savings if you're buying some stuff for the hockey fan in your life. Links in the description. If you're listening on the podcast, go to hockeytalkshow.com. But if you're the Buffalo Sabres, I mean, there's not a lot developing there. Kane is your best scoring forward, and I feel like he's only playing this good because he's on a contract here. Eichel's only got 7 goals, 19 points in 24 games. Ryan O'Reilly is making a ton of money for the amount of production he's putting out. Jason Pominville, God bless him. I love him. He's great in Buffalo. Nice to have him back in Buffalo. Is in the, reaching the sunset of his career. Okposo is overpaid. Reinhart has not developed into the player you thought he was going to be. Benoit Pouliot, who's gotten, teams have gotten a lot out of him everywhere else. He's not giving it to him in Buffalo. Ristolainen is a bright spot in that lineup and a good future there. I like Scandella. I like the pickup of Jordan Nolan, but again, you're not going to win with 4 or 5 defensemen. Not that Ristolainen is a 4 or 5 defenseman. He's a 1A defenseman. But, Scandella and Jordan Nolan, these are support guys. You just don't have the infrastructure in place if you're the Buffalo Sabres. And I do like Robin Leonard, though. They have great goaltending. They really do. But they are a disappointment so far in this early season. Let me see here. A couple of other quick... Oh, by the way, and while we're talking about Marchessault in Florida and Vegas, Marchessault was voted the number 1 star of the week. Number 1 star of the week. Let me see here. 3 goals, 6 assists for 9 points. Vegas at 15-6-1, 31 points on the season. He had a 3-point performance at a 4-2 victory over Anaheim. Scored an overtime goal after that, and 2 assists against San Jose. And he added his 3rd straight 3-point outing, including an assist on the decisive goal and a 4-2 win over the Arizona Coyotes. Marchessault. Telling you, man. Telling you, dude. Guy's the real deal. He's the real deal. He's proving that he's the real deal. I'm also going to leave this link. We're not going to break down the film or anything like that. I'm actually going to cut the show a smidge short tonight, but I'm going to put it in the description for you. Colorado Avalanche forward Gabriel Landeskog is given a 4-game suspension for cross-checking Matthew Tkachuk in the Calgary, Colorado game. I love this about the NHL. This is so anal retentive, but I love it. It's such an accounting thing. If there's any accountants out there, you'll love this. When the league hands out a suspension, they give you the number of the game. Now, that is such an inside thing. When I was working press for the league, on the front of all the game notes, it was the number of the game. And it was always fascinating to see what that number was. It's arbitrary. It's just stupid. And they just count every game gets a number. Every game. I don't know how they choose what game gets what number. I don't even think it really matters. I don't know if that goes alphabetically by the home team, or I really don't know how they do it. If all the games start at 7 o'clock, I get if a game starts at 7 and 7:30, that's easy. But I don't know how they do it exactly, but every game has a number, so they can pinpoint what game is what number. And whenever they hand out a suspension, they tell you what that game is. During NHL game number 356 in Colorado, Saturday, November 24th. Like, it's super official to me. It's like so uniform and official, like the way they break it down. Game 356 in Colorado on Saturday, November 25th. It reminds me of that. Like, I was born on a rainy Thursday. It reminds me of that. Like, it's super like old school and official. But it's just funny to me that there's this like official, like this game number in this location on this date. And then they show you a video of one animal hitting another poor innocent person in the face with a stick. Like, I mean, it's kind of like, do you have to be that official when, you know, so-and-so is acting like an idiot? But here's a disappointment for the guys over at the league's Department of Player Safety, George Parros, Gary Bettman, the NHL, the whole lot of you. Huge disappointment in the 4-game suspension for Gabriel Landeskog. I'll put the video down below. You'll see it for yourself. And we just got through this, a 10-game suspension, right? It was 10 games for Radko Gudas. 10 games for coming down on, what's his name, for Winnipeg. Just coming down, 2 hands on the stick while he was defenseless. It was a bad penalty. It deserved 10 games. You take a look at this play that Landeskog has on Tkachuk. It's not, he doesn't come down with 2 hands. He's got 2 hands on his stick. He puts one into the ribs, and then the next one you see him literally raise his hands up and put it right into the side of the guy's neck and head. I mean, they worked so long to get head injuries out of this game, and now you're going to let this slide for only 4 games. Landeskog should have got somewhere from 15 to 20 games for this, and it should have been a message from the league. Gudas did this. Landeskog did this. Now it's 15, 20 games. And by the way, technically, through the CBA, you'll see in the explanation video when I link it below, Landeskog is not a repeat offender, but he was suspended a couple of years ago. He was suspended 3 games for a similar type of play. So I don't care if that's technically not a repeat offender in the CBA. If that's me, I'm saying we're putting a stop to this head stuff right now, because they took the hits to the head out of the game. Now all of a sudden it's only 4 games to take a stick to the head. Doesn't make any sense. Big disappointment in the player safety department and the National Hockey League on that one. Hey, fun, quick show here tonight. Thanks for the comments. Appreciate it as always. Thanks for rating and reviewing on iTunes, Stitcher, and the TuneIn Radio app. And again, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, click that share button, man. Throw it out on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, like wherever you can. I know you really can't link that great on Instagram, but throw it out there wherever you can. Keep spreading the word. We're zeroing in on 500 fans on Facebook already. The amount of views that we're getting on YouTube are growing exponentially, and we're getting a lot of downloads on the podcast. So it's super, super encouraging. No way did I think just 2 months in that we'd be nearing the kind of numbers that we're nearing. I thought I would be literally talking to myself here. So it's great to see this grow super, super fast. So continue to share it. Thanks for the comments. Again, keep shooting your comments below. I check them constantly. We're always in here on the Hockey Talk Show. And we got a big Monday night ahead of us tonight. Big Tuesday, lots of things happening. I will see you guys.